2022 was a wild year for film. It's really the first year that COVID restrictions and lockdowns weren't widespread, and the last time that happened, the film industry was in a totally different space. Now, streamers are pumping out content like clockwork, Marvel movies going down after just 45 days at the theater, and a tour of films with award-winning directors bombing at the box office. Even though these makings started to show through 2019, it was absolutely fast-tracked these past couple of years. But what hasn't changed is that good movies are still being put out. So I wanted to recount the films throughout the year, a small list of the worst films, a top 10 of the year, and of course a list of honorable mentions. Now, I didn't see every film that came out this year. The most notable ones are probably Bardo and The Whale, so if you're wondering where those are, well, I haven't seen them yet. And with that down, here's my top 5 worst films of 2022. Sean Levy's The Adam Project, Ruben Fleischer's Uncharted, David O. Russell's Amsterdam, Colin Trevorrow's Jurassic World Dominion, and Daniel Espinosa's Morbius. There's really not much to say about the list. Both The Adam Project and Uncharted felt lifeless, Amsterdam is embarrassingly boring, and Morbius is a giant misfire of a superhero movie. But now that the trash is out of the way, time for the honorable mentions that almost made the top 10, but I still wanted to highlight them because of how good they were. Ryan Coogler's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, a film that follows the previous pop culture hit with beautiful cinematography and a heart that you don't see in other superhero films. Jordan Peele's Nope, his take on a grandiose sci-fi film akin to something like Spielberg's Jaws, featuring great performances from Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer, a classic summer blockbuster. Edward Berger's All Quiet on the Western Front, a phenomenal film that throws the audience down into the trenches in this recount through the German perspective. Gritty, gruesome, and cold. Ruben Östlund's Triangle of Sadness, a very upfront, in-your-face political satire that doesn't draw back. A film with one of the best second acts I've seen in a while that fizzles out towards its third. Overall, a great film. And finally, Joseph Kosinski's Top Gun Maverick. I was talking about Nope being a classic blockbuster, but this absolutely takes the cake. The revival of an 80s property can really only be done by the last movie star ever, Tom Cruise. A thrilling cinematic experience from top to bottom, and it's an insanely good crowd pleaser that no one can really hate. So, there you have it. I think out of all of these movies, the ones that are going to be really jarring to see in this are Nope and Top Gun Maverick, and that's understandable. Both are technically great, and I really won't be surprised if either wins big once award season comes up. But with that, let's get on to my top 10. Luca Guadagnino's Bones and All. This very much feels like a perfect balance between the calmness of Call Me By Your Name and the visceral energy of Suspiria. While the film has a fairly thin plot, the characters and performances in this make it such a hypnotic watch, along with the gorgeous cinematography and tactile score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. This takes a 10 spot in a hard-fought battle between this and Top Gun Maverick. Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans. Coming off last year's West Side Story, the king of filmmaking comes out with another banger with this semi-biopic of his life in The Fabelmans. It's really just a well-directed movie with a pretty heartwarming story. It's not really close to his best work, but it's a great film at the end of the day, along with some really good performances from Paul Dano and Michelle Williams. Plus, it's Steven Spielberg. What's not to love? Martin McDonagh's The Banshees of Inisherin. A very simple plot. Brendan Gleeson doesn't want to be friends with Colin Farrell because he's dull. What really makes this film what it is are the performances, really. Every person in the cast gives the bare minimum a great performance. It's such an interesting watch because of the simple conflict between the two, but because it's done so well, it overachieves in a lot of aspects. Also, this really showed me how funny Irish people were, which I hadn't even realized until after watching it. Matt Reeves' The Batman. I love David Fincher movies, and I love Nolan's Batman. That's really all there is. Yet another take on the Caped Crusader, this one though tackles his detective side rather than his action side. Robert Pattinson gives a really good performance of a broken Bruce Wayne, going against Paul Dano's Riddler, funny enough. Oh, and he also goes against Colin Farrell's Penguin, dull looking fella. Anyways, this is such an immersive cinematic experience, with Greg Fraser as the film's DP, who is quickly becoming one of the best in the industry, and Michael Giacchino's vampire-like score. With the supporting cast of Zoe Kravitz, Jeffrey Wright, Andy Serkis, and John Turturro, there was no way this was going to be anywhere near terrible. Rian Johnson's Glass Onion. The much-anticipated film to follow his out-of-nowhere hit, Knives Out, hit my expectations with flair. The boldness and breath of fresh air that Knives Out had comes in yet again here. Even with it having a smaller cast of characters, this still utilizes modern-day society as the backdrop and engine of the film, with yet another standout and funny performance from Mr. Blanc himself, Daniel Craig. Along with colorful characters with some dapper costume designs, this film was able to hit those highs I had with the first film in his newly birthed murder mystery franchise. Damien Chazelle's Babylon. His most divisive film to date easily barges into my top 5 for the year. Through its faults and very fluffed out runtime comes an epic for the ages. Excess, glamour, intensity. Chazelle pushes the limits of what is able to be put on screen. Along with a stacked cast, most notably Diego Calva, Margot Robbie, and Brad Pitt, we get to see the rapid highs and massive lows of our cast and characters as they transition into an era of sound. With collaborators Linus Sandgren and Justin Hurwitz back, I'm comfortable in saying this is his magnum opus, even with such a young career. A film like this will never be greenlit again. Todd Field's Tar. This roaring drama is really Cate Blanchett telling the Academy to give her an Oscar. The entire film feels like a carefully crafted composition. Todd Field does a fantastic job in directing this slow burn of an epic. It doesn't have the style of something like a Whiplash, but it does contain the brutality of something like a Black Swan. And for as long as it was, you really couldn't help yourself and watch this character get hit back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, everything crumbling down to no fault but their own. It's very haunting in a way when a film perfectly showcases an all-time great fall down to the restraints of their own ego. Park Chan-wook's Decision to Leave. The modern-day Hitchcock film, more specifically, the modern-day Vertigo. This detective thriller borderline romantic mystery film has all the things I love about Hitchcock's filmography, with a modern flair. The film has a lot of bouncy and playful cinematography with a great score that really goes well with its tone. But the main course is our two leads. Park Hae-il and Tang Wei's chemistry is off the charts. Every twist and turn throughout the investigation really made this such a hypnotic watch. As the film goes on, it gets crazier, and you just spiral down this journey with both these characters. And you just go along with it because you can't help but see the endgame of their story. The Daniels, Everything Everywhere, All at Once. I mean, what hasn't been said that's already been said about this film? It's objectively well crafted. This multiverse sci-fi family drama really ticks all the boxes for what most audiences want, and just like Blanchett, Michelle Yeoh is also gunning for that Oscar. Along with its Matrix-like action sequences are some of the biggest fan favorites of the year, with Ki Kwan, Stephanie Hsu, and Jamie Lee Curtis. For an out-of-nowhere film, this is insanely great on both a first watch and a rewatch. No matter how over-the-top and goofy this entire film is, it has a heart to it, and I love that. And with that, my number one film for the year is Charlotte Wells' Aftersun. It doesn't have the blaze of a Top Gun Maverick, it's not an epic like Babylon, and it isn't bold like Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I loved it. It's a film that has a simple story, and yet this entire film is perfect all around. This is one of, if not the best written films of the year. It's a genuine human story told with such carefulness that it feels personal in a way. I felt that I was experiencing this person's revelation of that memory. You can feel both the atmosphere and texture of the film because it's shot and paced so well. I just love everything about the film. Frankie Corio, Paul Mescal, and Charlotte Wells should be very proud of what they did here. It's so passionate, it's so heartfelt, and it's such a heartbreaking watch. This was amazing. The film and that final scene will live rent-free in my head for life. It's legitimately a masterpiece in filmmaking. So yeah, that's my top 10 for the year, along with some honorable mentions. Thanks for watching and for sticking with the channel throughout the year. I always have a great time making these videos on stuff I like, mainly film, and I'm happy to see it pay off with the growth of the channel. Also, leave your top 10 down in the comments below. It's always great to see everyone's taste in film. And with that, this was A Piece of Media. Thanks for watching.